Okay, so let's add an image to the document. So first of all, if there's an image saved already, we could simply go to File and open it. If you wanted to get something from online, we could go to Google and open the file online and either save it to the computer and then open it in Illustrator, or copy it and then just paste it into Illustrator. So before we do anything though, I want to clean up my workspace because in the process of doing different work, my panels have moved around. So all I have to do is go back to Window, go to Workspace, and I can simply click on the workspace that I set up for myself called D Forrester, and it puts those panels back where I originally set them up. So it's like a reset. Okay. Now, if I have a file already saved, such as a JPEG or a PNG file, I can simply go to File, Open, locate where it's saved, and open. Now, the file has opened at a certain size. It's rather small. However, I can always click and drag to resize it. If I wanted my grid that I set up on the previous, one of the previous videos, I could simply go to View and Show Grid. And again, I have a 1-inch grid set up that has 4 subdivisions in each. So every 1/4 inch there's a line. It's like graph paper. Okay, so I can decide where I want to use this, how I want to use this, size I want to use. I can manually click and drag to resize it, or I can come up to width and height and simply type in the dimensions. But since I don't know yet what I'm actually doing, I have no idea what size I want it to be. Now, what can we do as far as editing this image goes? First, I'm going to copy, or actually, I'll copy it and paste it. So I have an original and I have one that I could do some work on. So I can always go back to this original. So in the artboard, let's first explore under under Edit. You can go into Edit Colors. With the photograph, there's only a few things you can actually do here. You could, well, first of all, it says convert to RGB. It's not gonna, you're not gonna see a difference. You could convert to grayscale, then you certainly would see a difference because it becomes a black and white or image with a grayscale. We could invert colors. You definitely see the difference there. It becomes the look of such like a negative. Let's click invert colors. It's kind of cool, but it really depends on what it is you're trying to do. So let's undo it, or Command Z. Let's see what else. We can adjust the balance of color. So to adjust the balance of color, first of all, we'll do convert and preview so we can see the change as it occurs. In this case, we can change it to grayscale here, or if it stays RGB, red, green, blue, you can basically adjust the sliders, but it's adjusting the overall feel of the image as opposed to changing the colors, targeted changes of the colors, I should say. So you might want to do something like this. You might want to do grayscale. That's up to you. Click OK. No, it didn't hold those effects though. Let's just jump back in there, see why that happened. Preview, convert, RGB. I really kind of like that pinkish look that we were getting there for a while. Let's see if we could recreate that. No, more red. That means less. Oh, I don't know. How did we get that before? Let's reset the colors. 0, 0, 0. Okay. Oh, that's getting there. Oh, I kind of like that feel. Not so much. Not so much. Let's have more red. Oh yeah. Oh, this is what I wanted. There we go. Okay, click OK. That's kind of interesting. Have no idea what you'll want to do with your photos, but to me, I find that interesting. However, perhaps you need something that's more in the background, in which case you'd want to adjust the opacity so it becomes transparent to whatever color paper you printed on. So we select the image, come up to the top to the opacity, and simply adjust it so it becomes so transparent it's almost like a watermark. So you could fill the entire background of your document so that it's like a watermark. That's one possibility. It could become grayscale. That's another possibility, but there's only a few options here for really editing the color overall. Okay, now let's look at targeting changes of color. There's a little process you have to go through to be able to do that. So let's just shrink that a bit. Let's keep this image as the original, copy and paste. And let's take the image that you want to recolor. So let's say you want to change the color of the actual house at the top, the red part. Let's change that color. So we're going to do what's called tracing. So we're going to go to Object, Live Trace, and we're going to set up the options for Live Trace. Okay, and by default it wants to change it to a black and white, so you want to change it to color or grayscale, or perhaps you do want black and white, so you can play with these settings. Now a photo has tons of details. The sky isn't just blue, it's many shades and tints of blue. That's lights and darks. You have whites, lots of shades of whites, grays, lots of shades of blues. Photos tend to have thousands to millions of colors. So right now, we're looking to change the number of colors. So let's look at what changing that photo from thousands of colors to 6 colors. And look what happens. We'll just do it in a preview. And I have your original open so we can compare. So it becomes very blocky or posterized, but that sort of effect may work well for what you need to do. If you thought your image would work with so few colors, you could certainly target and recolor, and I'll show you how to do that. But meanwhile, let's try a little more color. Let's go to 25, and it should, once you click on the window after typing in a number, it should retrace with that number of colors. So we'll see what 25. We should have a lot more visual information. Look at that. It is still a little blocky or Illustrator looking as opposed to photo looking, but we're getting more tints and shades in the sky. Certainly not as many as in the original. Let's look at 50. Okay. Patience while it is converting or tracing. And what it does is it is tracing areas of colors, and it's going to turn them into shapes. Okay, the sky has much more blue in it. Certainly not the level of visual detail as the original, but it has a lot more to work with. You're not going to want to go too much higher. We're not using Illustrator. It's going to be intense on your computer. So, 50 colors is probably plenty. You could try more just to see what your computer can handle, but click Trace. Now, just because we've traced it doesn't mean it's ready for recoloring. To recolor, there's another step. To recolor, you have to expand the image so that all those different shapes of colors separate. And that's the expanding. And then you have to convert it to the live paint so we can add new colors. So expand is one thing, convert to live paint is more direct. We're going to click convert to live paint, and all of a sudden it's going to look like a very distorted image. And what that distortion is anchor points. Okay. All right, so when I click on that image, I don't really see it very well. I see a whole sea of blue. When I click off of it, I see it fine. So what you're seeing are anchor points. In the earlier video with the text, I showed you about paths and how the paths are created by a sequence of anchor points. Well, it has changed now every section of color into a separate path. And if we wanted to reshape the image, we could edit those anchor points, but that's really not the point right now. The point right now is to change color. So now that all these sections of color are separate, we can take what is called a live paint bucket. Live paint bucket, the shortcut is K, and you'll find it. Usually Shape Builder tool is the tool showing, and if you click and hold, you'll find your live paint bucket hiding underneath it. That live paint bucket can now come up, and any section you want, you can change the color. But let's say you just wanted to change that lighthouse, the top of the lighthouse. So you pick the color you want to change it to, and let's say you want a nice bright yellow. You'd simply click in that section, and it recolors to become that nice bright yellow. And maybe in the browner area, we go for a more olive look. So we take a shade of the yellow, and that looks pretty good. Okay, and then we'll zoom back out, Command minus. And we've managed to recolor. So you can change the individual colors of a photo. You just have to essentially break it apart, but it is live tracing with expanding and preparing it for live paint. Or you can use the edit colors, which allowed you to adjust the balance of the color, convert to grayscale. I don't want to say it's limited in its image editing, but it's certainly not as expansive as if you were using Photoshop. So, what can we do with all of this? Oh, and this is going to File and opening an image. Let's start a new file, 8.5 by 11. Let's make it CMYK. Everything looks good. Click OK. We could simply go to the internet. There's that image. Right click, copy it, and you could come in here and paste it. Command V, or you could go to Edit and Paste. And when you paste the image in, look at the size difference. When we first opened this Lewisburg Lighthouse file, if you'll remember, this is an 8.5 by 11 file size. That image opened really small, although it allowed us to resize it with no real issues. But this is more real to the size when you copy it from online and paste it in. But again, let's open the rulers, Command R, just so we can see. But let's just say you wanted to manually resize the image. And you could allow for some of the image to be off the artboard, and then when printing, it would not include what's off the artboard. But it's not quite the same as if you cropped an image or cut part of that image off. But let's say you wanted to, I'm just playing here. Let's not so much center it, but just shrink it slightly. Okay, we're going to open the grid again, or show the grid, just so we can try to line it up and be balanced. That's pretty close. Okay, and let's give it a title. Let's play with some text now. So maybe this is, Lighthouse Magazine. Lighthouse. Okay, and what kind of font do we want for this Lighthouse Magazine? You can go in and play, find some, oh, that's kind of crazy. I don't know if it's really a style that would work with the lighthouse, but it's kind of fun. Okay, maybe you don't want solid text. We looked at masking text so that imagery showed inside of it, but if we're going to put an image in the background, we probably don't also need to make it busy by putting an image inside the text. So perhaps we take the fill out of the text. So if you notice, there's a fill color, but no stroke. And you can see that down here as well. Why don't we turn the fill color off and turn the stroke color on and have it outlined. And that's a very light outline or stroke on the lighthouse text. So while it's highlighted, why don't we beef that up just a bit? Okay. And that's probably too much. Well, maybe it's not too much, but those letters are touching now, and I'm not liking that so much. So I'm going to just highlight it and go to type and character, and I am going to adjust that space between the letters just so they're not blurring together, you know, everything overlapping. A little touch is fine, but we don't want too much. Okay. That's probably good enough, at least for the moment. And actually, maybe I'll go down 1 point. Okay. So we have some text. It's outlined, so it's showing a bit of the imagery through it. Maybe you don't want this image to be so bold. Maybe you want it in the background more, so we could certainly lighten it up so that it's more of a watermark. Again, could go to the editing of color. Let's just change it, and now it's showing up as a CMYK file because the file itself was created as a CMYK, which the last one we experimented was RGB. So now you have 4 colors that you could mess around with as far as adjusting goes. Oh, I love the pink. But I was thinking more. Like that. Let's hold that. Okay. All right. So we have this really fading off into the background, and maybe let's use the eyedropper and capture this color here. It's really subtle. It's not really white. It's not really pink, but notice it is a color. It's almost a frosty light blue. Let's take a shape and let's draw a shape up here in the background to fill that background in. Oops, but it covers everything. So let's look at our layers here. And inside our layers, we see that this top path is the shape with that frosty light blue. Well, it's covering everything. That's no good. So let's click on that and drag it all the way to the bottom. Not quite going all the way to the bottom. Let's see. So let's select this group and drag it up above that. Okay, so now we have that in the background. We do see a little bit of an edge here. It's not perfect. And let's look at what's this next color, this sea color. Okay, let's get the eyedropper again and grab that sea color. Oh, it's a little grayish. And take another box. I'm just trying to get a little background in here and end it where the water ended here, but the water on this side comes down to there. So again, though, we have this gray box. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, we want to drag that down also so it goes behind. Interesting. Okay, and these are going to need to become transparent also, but I'm going to use this sub-select or direct select tool, the white arrow, because since my water comes down to here, I want to click on that anchor point here in the corner to activate it and drag this side down a little lower. You see how it comes up on the angle? So my water is here and it's here. They're just subtle little, I'm playing here just for the benefit of demonstration. And then let's collect this brownish ground color, and then we'll do one last shape. Okay, oh, it's kind of gold. Okay, well, let's see what we get. And we're going to take another box color, and of course it's going straight across. It's going to cover some of my gray ground, so I am going to drag it all the way to the bottom. Okay, so I've filled some background in. I'm not sure I even like it anymore, but for demonstration purposes, I have now just selected all three of these paths that make these background color boxes. To make multiple selections together, you select one, hold Shift, and select the rest. And make sure you highlight their layers while you're holding Shift. And we could adjust the transparency of these as well. I'm not sure I remember exactly what transparency number I used, but I just want to lighten them a bit. Just a bit. Just for fun. Okay, and I think I'll take that direct select tool and come in here to just drag. Oh, no. Let's get the keyframe, or anchor. That's anchor point, I'm sorry. Click and drag it down on an angle. Okay. Kind of interesting. And then you could also take your text, and what color do we want? Let's go to the default colors and switch. Okay, and I'm going to turn that off. You might decide you wanted to add some text here. Too much of that ornate type can make people crazy, so we'll go to a more standard, straightforward font, and we'll do a little typing, and maybe it goes over, who knows. But you can type over the image, you can type alongside, you can use your select tool to click and drag to new positions. You could reselect your text tool and do something larger and bolder across the bottom. Each area of text can have different colors, fills, outlines. That's totally up to you. I hope this was helpful. Okay, besides editing color of an image, you could also, let's just delete some of this, you could also play around with some of the effects. So in this case, here we have our original photo again, and we'll copy and we'll paste it, so we'll keep an original outside. There are effects. Some are Illustrator effects, and some of them come from the Photoshop program, but they'll work in here. So there are these artistic effects. Let's say you wanted to turn that photo into what looks like a piece of colored pencil artwork. There are adjustments that you can do for each one of these effects. So this is color pencil, stroke pressure, and then paper brightness, which would affect the color. What else do we have here? There's a lot. You could certainly explore these on your own. Film grain, that's kind of a neat effect. So although it's not as easy to simply just change the colors of the image, there's certainly effects that you can put on your image that would work nicely. And with each effect that you might select, you will always get some little adjustments that you can make to it. So let's say we decide to keep that. You know, it's very similar to what it is, but it has that neat effect on it. Let's see, in appearance. The appearance panel happens to be open. Appearance will show you what effects you have put onto something. So it shows you have poster edges on that photo right now. If we went in and decided to see what, ooh, palette knife, I'm not liking that, but ooh, that I like, the plastic wrap. Click OK. So you see now in appearance, it's showing you plastic wrap. You wouldn't necessarily want to go and add additional. You'd want to go through appearance and go in and change what you have. So that is another way to make some changes. What else do we have in here? You could really explore any of these. All of these were available through that effects window. The effects in Illustrator aren't quite the same, but you can explore any of these. But the more creative ones you'll see here with Photoshop. So feel free to apply them to a photo. And I encourage you to play around. Go in, play with all these different things so that when you get a project, you have some ideas of what you can do with the tools. Okay, when you normally save your Illustrator work, you just go to File, Save, or Save As, and you'd be saving it in a working format, which would be Adobe Illustrator format, .ai, or Adobe Illustrator, because you want to still be able to open it and see all the layers and paths and be able to make edits to it. If you are looking to send a document out, such as an Adobe Acrobat document, you'd want to send a PDF file. So File, Save, or Save As, Adobe PDF, and Save. Okay, and then it's just got the standard, do you want it to have editing abilities, and if so, you keep things checked, if not, but eventually you click Save PDF. If you're creating something that you want to have as an image file, you have to go to Export. So File, Export. And that's where you can get to PNG, BMP or bitmap, JPEG files, TIFF files. If you send to a professional printer, they may want a TIFF file that has, I believe, the highest amount of visual information for best resolution. If ever you get Photoshop, you could save it in or export it to a Photoshop format. So export is where you would get to all of these formats. A standard Illustrator file or a PDF file that you would get through File, Save, or Save As.